Hello, and welcome back to Choir with Knut. In the last episode, I arranged the song Love on Top by Beyoncé for three-part choir with piano accompaniment. And I thought I'm just going to make some more episodes of me arranging songs so that you can see how the process works, what you do before you start arranging, and the sort of choices you have to make in order to make a successful arrangement. The song we're going to be arranging today is by Katy Perry. It's called Teenage Dream. And the reason why I chose Teenage Dream is because I was recently in my friend Therese's play. The play is called Prettier. And my role involved singing the song Teenage Dream, dressed as a woman with piano accompaniment. It was a very bizarre scene. But I really quite took a liking to the song, and I thought, you know what, this would actually make a really good song to do an arrangement of. Like with Love on Top, I'm going to be arranging this song for three-part choir, so that's a soprano, alto, baritone, with piano accompaniment. If you haven't seen the previous episode, I recommend you have a look at it. These episodes are less scripted than the ones I've done before, as I'm just kind of going through the sort of stuff that I would normally do while I'm working and just talking about what I do at each step of the way. So let's move over to my workstation and get started on arranging Teenage Dream by Katy Perry. So as I mentioned in the intro, I'm already quite familiar with Teenage Dream because I had to learn it for the show. And so I don't really need to spend a lot of time getting intimate with the song itself. And that would normally be the first step. I'm going to skip straight to step 2, which is to look at cover versions or acapella choral cover versions of the song. And you can find these on YouTube. You just search Teenage Dream acapella or Teenage Dream choir or anything like that, and there will generally be a few versions available. And this is just to get some ideas for my arrangement. For most pop songs, there will be some cover versions online. If there aren't, then you'll just have to be creative and come up with your own ideas. But let's have a look and see what's there. Okay, the first video I found is a collegiate all-male a cappella group, and these guys are all male, and my imaginary choir is mixed, so already, I can't do exactly what they do. But there's a lot of good stuff there. They use a soloist throughout, and that's very common with collegiate a cappella. And originally, I wasn't going to do solos, I thought, but I thought it was quite nice to have one, and I might use one, maybe not for like the whole song, but for like parts of it. I could even have like a few different soloists, maybe just for like the first part of the song, just to like have some contrast with later when it's just like all unison voices. I think the idea of doing a solo is interesting to me. Second thing I noticed is they reharmonized the chorus, and I think for a song like Teenage Dream, that's a good idea. Teenage Dream uses 2 chords, and it's just like a 2-bar, the whole song is a 2-bar loop, and what really drives it forward is the production. So there's a lot of stuff happening in the production that can't be easily replicated with voices. So a good way to get around that is to reharmonize, so that you avoid the situation where it's like the same thing happening over and over and over again. I might just take a page out of their book and do some reharmonization in the chorus. These guys also use a beatboxer, and I was thinking, do I want to do any sort of vocal percussion or stuff like that? I think because I have a piano, I think I'll just let the piano do the percussive work. And the piano is a percussive instrument, and it does that really well. So, let the instruments do what they're best at. If you have a piano, they're good at percussion. Voices are good at harmonies and words and emotion and that kind of stuff. Not to say that pianos can't play with emotion, but it's not like they're most primary element, if you will. Okay, so that's a good start. Let's see what else we can find here. I found another collegiate group. This was a mixed group, and they did something which is actually kind of similar to what I did that Therese asked me to do in her play. Because when I sing Teenage Dream in for Prettier, it's done as a ballad, as a piano ballad with voice. And actually, a few people came up to me afterwards and said that actually worked really well. It's surprising because Teenage Dream is so produced, but it actually works really well as a ballad. And clearly these guys realized that. So the entire the first part of the song is done quietly with some nice oohs as a ballad. So I think I might just do that in my version as well, to just transform the first part into more of a ballad. And another thing they do later is they use the song Firework as kind of as a bridge, sort of, which is an interesting idea. It's actually, I've done a whole medley of Katy Perry songs for LCV. I did a few, it was 4 songs from the album Teenage Dream. So it was California Girls, Teenage Dream, The One That Got Away, and Firework. And it's really surprising, these songs work really well in counterpoint. And you wouldn't have guessed, but actually you can have them running at the same time, in the same key, and they actually play off each other really well. So clearly these guys realized that as well, and so they put in Firework as sort of a bridge in their song. I think for this arrangement, I'm not going to do that because I want this to just be Teenage Dream. And I think Teenage Dream is a very strong song, so I don't really feel like I need to put other songs in there. But there's a lot of good stuff in here. They use both a male and a female soloist, which I think is quite nice. You could have parts sung by a man and parts sung by a woman, and you get a different sort of element to the song. So there's, I might well use that in my arrangement. But yeah, let's look to see if we can find some other versions. Okay, the last cover I found was another collegiate group, also a mixed group, and they did what I would consider quite a straight cover of it. They had the instrumental parts put onto voices, they had a soloist throughout. For some reason, they cut the second verse, and I don't really know why. Maybe it's because there's mention of alcohol, and some people find that controversial. I'm going to assume that my choir is going to be okay with the mention of alcohol, because it ends up being quite short if you cut the second verse. But yeah, it does sort of what you'd expect. This version, that is, does sort of what you'd expect of an acapella cover. It has, the parts transcribed onto voices. So I don't think I'm going to take so much from this version that I wouldn't take from the original. But I'm going to link to it so you can check it out. The next thing I'm going to do is to transcribe the song. Now, transcription is sort of how I work. I like writing it all out because it gives me a good overview of the song. And if I don't know the song already, it also helps me to learn the song if I'm under time pressure, which I often am. Teenage Dream could perceivably be done by ear because it's on the surface quite a simple song. So if you're the sort of person who prefers to work by ear, I'd say this is a song that you could do that just fine. Now just because of the way I am, I like to write stuff out because I feel like it gives me the overview and it makes me see everything clearly. So if I'm voicing out the chords, I'll know exactly which part is covering which note, so that I always cover all the harmony notes in my block harmonies, for instance. That's just up to you, but that's how I work. So that's what I'm going to do next, just transcribe it all. Okay, I think that is pretty much the transcription done. You may or may not have noticed, but at some point during that long transcription time, my keyboard stopped working for no apparent reason. And so I started fiddling around with like settings, and I had to get my backup keyboard, which is, it has some problems. There's like this thing called the modulation switch, and it does both modulation and pitch. And the thing is, it's a bit wonky, and it defaults to having the pitch shift down a semitone on the instrument that you're working on. And so what happens is, whatever instrument you're working on, it sounds like it's about a semitone flat all the time. So it really requires that. So I had to like concentrate really, really quite strongly to be able to get the transcription done. I've restarted my computer, and we shall see if perhaps my keyboard's working again. But I might have to buy a new one, and I don't want to. Anyway, let's have a look at the transcription I've done. So now I've just written out everything as simply as I can for the whole song. Now there's a fair bit of like interpretive stuff happening. She changes voice quality a lot. She starts out singing in head voice or thin folds, and then switches into more of a stronger chest or thick folds sound, kind of switching it up every couple of phrases. I don't think there's any benefit in me worrying about that for my arrangement, because that is very like high level vocal stuff, and for my community choir, they just want to sing. So I mean, I can give them instructions such as sing quietly or sing as though you're heartbroken, and then that might get a reaction out of them. But effectively, talking about voice quality might not be too beneficial for these guys. So how I can preserve that might be to keep it in the original key, because it'll force singers to have to think about the way they approach the song. So take the first phrase. This is in the break area for most women, which means that they will, sopranos, for instance, will tend to switch to head voice quality here, or thin folds. You could also do belt, but that's not really the right sentiment, and Katy Perry doesn't do that either. So we'll see. I mean, it also depends on where I want the men to sit, and I think it might be better for me to maybe put it down a little bit to benefit the men, because if I can keep their top note under at or under a C, then it'll be easier for them. Because a lot of men will start to kind of feel once they get up to stuff like Ds and E flats. I don't think the melody goes up any higher than a D, so that is helpful to know. So if I just put the whole thing down a tone, then that will put the top note to C, and I think that's going to be better for the men, and also the women should still be able to do the right quality just about there. Anyway. But yeah, this is just straight out written out. Now, as I said, I am going to make the first verse an optional solo. I think I'll start with a female soloist, because there's this line about, you think I'm pretty without any makeup on. Now, if you've got, say, a drag choir or a very camp choir, then that you could play that off for laughs. It is what I would consider a feminine lyric. And so it would be most appropriate to put it on a woman's voice. You can put it at a man's voice, but then that means it will mean something different. You know, some men wear makeup, some don't. But it's kind of there's this societal expectation that a woman should wear makeup. And so someone thinking she's pretty without any makeup on has more of an impact if it's sung by a woman, if you see what I mean. Anyway, yeah, so I might just have the first one as a female solo, and then when it gets to Before You Met Me, I was alright, but things were kind of heavy, You Brought Me to Life. That is more of a neutral line, so I thought, okay, well, that would be nice to maybe have an optional male soloist. So you get a different sort of dynamic in the song when it's not just a woman singing to her lover, but it's like maybe the lovers are singing to each other. That might be nice. And then I'll probably write them out as optional solos, so that if I find that, oh yeah, I've got an excellent male soloist who can do that one and an excellent female soloist who can do that one, then I can choose to do that. But if not, they can just sing it all in unison, no problem. Now, this piano part is just the bare bones of the backing in the song. I added, when we get into the chorus later, I just added an octave down on the bass, but that's it. I'm going to have to change this. And as I said, the chorus is sort of a natural place to reharmonize a bit. Because this uses really sparse harmony, there's a lot of opportunity for reharmonization. That being said, the chords do something here. This song is kind of known in the music theory world as being a song that never goes to the tonic. And the tonic is considered to be like the resting chord. It's the chord that most songs will resolve to. And it's the chord that's considered to be the most at rest. This song never goes there. It always stays on the fourth and the fifth step, which means there's this tension which never gets resolved, which also helps to contribute to this. I mean, it's a fantasy, and it's a fantasy that is really, really charged, both lyrically and also, as we see, harmonically. And of course, also the fact that it's sung quite high up in a belt style also adds to this tension. So there's a lot of tension in the song, and that is helped by the harmony. So I'll have to, the chorus is a nice place to have that kind of release where it's like, you make me feel, and it's like you've reached your destination. That's not what they chose to do in the original, but that's an option. And that might be what I choose to do, just so that I avoid the situation of samey through the whole song. That's a bit later though. Like, I imagine in my arrangement, this is when I have all the voices coming in, and maybe when the backings starts to be a bit more rhythmic, because I'll imagine I want to do that ballad approach where it's a bit more like long notes and beautiful oohs, maybe, which we'll see. Whereas here, I'll probably do something that's quite similar to what I wrote here temporarily to start that groove. We go through this, and we have this nice little break here when it's just the voice, Katy Perry singing on her own, and then chorus. And I did the octave down in the bass here. And yeah, I think I'll probably want to keep this in harmony. I'll just harmonize it and have all the voices sing it in harmony. And I think that's probably going to be quite nice on its own, especially if I've had like a combination of soloists and maybe, just like one section at a time singing the song, to suddenly having them all singing it at the same time. That's a pretty nice thing to do in the chorus. That's probably what I'll do. Right, so chorus goes through, and then verse. And then this one will most likely be sung in unison voices rather than by any soloist. I'll have to see what I choose to do. It might be cool to, because I've decided to do a ballad style intro, to just keep the groove going here. Maybe harmonize, I'm not quite sure, but it's the sort of thing that will probably, once I get started working on the arrangement, I'll get inspired and I'll get ideas and I'll just go with whatever I feel works best. It doesn't have to be, I don't have to be too clever about it. It's, the song does a lot of the work for you, so you don't need to be super clever. Right, so I've already decided, because I like to save time and I like to reuse material because it means that there's less work for me to do, I am going to go back to the pre-chorus and have it exactly the same way both times it shows up. So DSL coda goes back to the pre-chorus, and then the chorus also exactly the same. No need to rearrange it. It's just going to make rehearsals take longer, and I don't think there's not enough of a payoff. I am going to have to do something different with the chorus eventually anyway. But I do tend to think of things in terms of the artistic payoff versus the additional rehearsal time. And for a song like Teenage Dream, which is going to go down well anyway because it's a really popular pop song, it's just not going to be worth it. You want to save your big guns for songs that need it, songs that need interesting arrangement to get the audience enjoying it. If you're arranging what you would consider to be a bad, maybe not bad, but like not quite as good as Teenage Dream kind of song, that's when you want to pull out all the arranging stops. For Teenage Dream, no need. It's a great song. Like, the song will work. And you don't need to throw all the bells and whistles at it. Okay, anyway, chorus goes through, and then we have this great thing about, I'm gonna get your heart racing in my skin tight jeans. This is such a great line. I'll see. This will probably also be, this is a natural sort of climax in the song, and then it goes into the quiet bit. Now this, I'm gonna have to see what I do, because it could be really awkward. But I think I'll need to have something interesting happening in the voices here, because in the original it works because of the production. Here, it might end up sounding a bit sparse, but I do like the fact that they use an echo tonight. That's something you could build. You could have them go progressively higher in pitch. You could, lengthen it up to 8 bars, so you get a chance to build it up. Call and response, so that certain sections sing on 1, other sections sing on 2 and 3, and so on. There's a lot of stuff you can do here, because you want to build up to this climax. And here, this is a great belt note in the original, and you want that. This is the final chorus, and you want something big. Though, I also have this idea of going into the last chorus and doing the unison octaves acapella clap along chorus, when everyone's singing in unison. The piano cuts out, and you have them come do, they come clapping, and they go into the audience and they get them all involved. Super cheesy, but it's really easy to do because it's unison, and it's always works. It's like key changes. It always works. It gets people excited. So there is a good chance I'll do that. We'll see how I end up working this build. It's also quite cool, building up to something, building up to climax, and then instead of going into a huge thing, you then go into unison, which is a rather simple approach to the song. But that's a lot of drum and bass music does that. You have the build, and then you have the drop, and then it's like they keep the tension there by not having a massive boom, boom coming in. So it is something that is a legitimate thing you can do. Anyway, so the chorus is, in the original, Katy Perry has a bit of ad-libs over the top. I might write optional ad-libs here, but you can't always assume that there's going to be someone who can ad-lib. So I'll write something out that will work without ad-libs, and then there might be optional ad-libs. And then, the musical director will nominate someone to be like, you can ad-lib, you do it. And then they do it. And and then they just kind of repeat the chorus here with a bit of ad-libs over the top, and then back to the I'ma get your heart racing in my skin tight jeans, which they finish on. And when I did my my big Katy Perry medley, that's what we finished with. Let me put your hands on me in my skin tight jeans, be a teenage dream tonight. And that's just nice chord, and then resolve to the tonic, and it's just a simple, nice way to finish a song. Tried but true, but it works. So I might just end up doing that again, but we'll see. It's a lot of this stuff I'll kind of figure out as I'm working, because I'll be like, okay, so now they've sung, so that means maybe they can do it now. And maybe the baritones haven't done anything fun for a while. Let's have them get something now. It's the sort of thing that will, kind of organically develop as you arrange. Anyway, I'm just going to get started doing my arrangement, and when I'm done, we will talk about what I did and why. Okay, I think the arrangement's pretty much finished. So let's have a look at what we got. I decided that I wanted to go all the way tonight with the ballad concept. So I slowed it down just a little bit, not too much. The original's 120 BPM. I just slowed it down to 108. So it's not that big a difference. But I thought because this song lent itself to that treatment, I'm going to roll with it and see what I get. So I'm starting with this really simple piano intro, and so I've written with pedal. You don't have to write in pedal markings for everything. Sibelius doesn't play back pedal markings if you write them just with pedal. If you use actual pedal markings, it does, but it doesn't always sound correct pedaling, no matter what you do. I mean, it's a taste thing. Like, piano players will know how to use the sustain pedal because it's one of the most, it's one of those basic things that all piano players will learn. So if you just write with pedal, they'll know sort of what to do. In fact, you might write nothing and they'll still use the pedal because that's just what piano players do. Anyway, I've written in this short intro here, setting up the mood, setting up the key, and also with the chord symbols at the top. I just let Sibelius use the guitar tabs. I don't actually play guitar, so I don't know if these voicings are nice on guitar, but, well, I'm sure a good guitarist will be like, that voicing's not good, I'm going to do this one instead. And then they kind of solve your problem for you. Okay, so first, I wrote soprano solo, optional solo that is, and I mean, it doesn't have to be a soprano, it could just be any person who can sing in that range. But that's just the range I wanted in. That's just solo, nothing else happening. Long notes in piano. Again, you don't need much. The song has a lot going for it already, so you don't need to like put loads of arrangement in there. Just nice long chords. These are the original chords. You may have noticed that I put it down a tone, but in this key, the original's in B flat. This one's in A flat. It's the same functional chords. Okay, so first a female or a soprano alto solo, then there's a baritone solo, again optional, with some nice little oohs in the sopranos and altos. I kept these quite low in range because I want it to be all of them, but I want, in case there's just one of them, I want him or whoever it is to be able to ring out clearly. You might use a microphone for your solos, you might not. It just depends on what sort of singers you have. Okay, so it's the same, nothing different. And you have a bit of, you have a bit of harmony coming in at Valentine, and then it's block harmonies. Let's go all the way tonight, no regrets, just love. This is led by the alto section, they have the melody, and the other guys are harmonizing around it. And now there's a bit more movement in the piano part like this. Still not like, the original uses quavers, or eighth notes. I just kept it to crotchets for now, quarter notes, with some offbeats in the bass. Something to kind of give it a bit more movement without doing exactly what the original does, because that comes later. Right, so harmony, altos leading, and then unison octaves going into the chorus with the piano jumping out, and here comes the chorus. I chose to harmonize this using a 1-5-6-4 chord progression. This is what's often called the pop chord progression. It's really, really common. And I think there's like a joke video about it on YouTube. I'll see if I can find it and link it on the screen because it's so common. Now, Teenage Dream doesn't use it, but by employing that chord progression, which pretty much fits with the chords, I have to make the 5 a suspended chord so that it doesn't clash. By doing that, not only do I achieve, something that's slightly different from what's been going on before, but it also sounds really in the style of pop ballads. My fan is still on. Have you noticed that there's like this happening in the background? Oops, that's my fan. Hang on. And suddenly, it's really quiet. God, okay. I'm recording this in summer, by the way. I'm wearing shorts, and with the studio lights, it's really hot in here. And I tried to get rid of like the nice little glistening effect on my face, and I just couldn't because it's so warm. Okay, I'll just make this quick. So yeah, by employing that chord progression, I also put it in that sort of pop ballad sensibility. And change it slightly so it's not the same chords happening through the whole song, and also just harmonize this in block harmonies. Sopranos having the melody and the others harmonizing. And that's just what I've done for the whole chorus. Now, I've got the same rhythm as the original in the piano. I have changed the bass notes and the chords to match, but I've kept the rhythms so that you still have the same, you still have the effect of For instance, this offbeat chord change with the bass note here. So that goes on all the way till the end, and then it's time for unison followed by harmonies, and then unison followed by harmonies, unison followed by harmonies, unison followed by harmonies, and here a nice little fortepiano or sforzando with the accent going into I'm complete, and then dies alt coda. And then I just reused what I've done before. Also made sure that this then goes back to a simpler pattern here so that the change isn't too drastic when they go back to the earlier section. Right, so that then is the chorus again, same as before. Finally going back, or eventually coming to the coda. And the coda is also harmonized choral style with sopranos having the melody and altos, baritones harmonizing. Keep this is like the original. I've kept the same chords. That's in unison, then harmony again. I gave, because the melody ends up going quite low for the altos and sopranos, I then changed it over to the baritones here and make sure that they're just a tad bit louder than the other parts so that you can hear it clearly across. You can make a melody go from part to part. You might have to make your singers aware of, when are you singing harmony, when are you singing melody, so that they accommodate. You don't want someone, blasting out their harmony notes and the melody is struggling to be heard. Ideally, that shouldn't be a problem because you will, as a good arranger, always put the melody in a good, strong part of people's range. And if you don't, then you will compensate by having all the surrounding stuff be quiet and also in like a low range. Like, just be aware. You can't blame the singers if a part of the music gets drowned out because you put it in a wrong range. We've all done this, by the way, so don't worry, it happens to the best of us. Right, that is fine. Now, this little middle eight, the bridge. I decided to go with the echoing of the tonight, having it in unison, and then having each section do it in turn. And I thought that'd be quite nice. You can make some sort of choreography thing out of it. So sopranos, altos, baritone, sopranos, alto, baritone. And then I extended it by 4 bars so that it's actually a middle 8 because there's 8 bars. By harmonizing it, starting low, progressively getting higher and louder, up to a nice little climax on this dominant. By the way, this needs to be fixed because that's a dominant like that. And here I chose, not only do I want to do a unison octaves chorus, but I also want to have a semitone key change going up, just like in the Eurovision Song Contest. So you have this you, which Katy Perry does. And I thought, well, how about instead of you, have you. So you have a sudden new key. It's so cheesy, but the audience will love it. And if they take themselves really seriously, they'll hate it, but most people will be like, yeah! So fun. And so I've just kept the accompaniment the same, going up a semitone. And these guys are now singing in unison, so everyone gets to sing the melody for a while. Halfway through, after Don't Ever Look Back, Don't Ever Look Back, you go back to the harmonies. And it's just the same harmonies as in the choruses before, but because we've changed key and we've had a bit of unison, it's not going to feel like you're just repeating material, even though technically you are in a new key. But, this should work quite nicely. And that just goes on. Now, I chose for my outro, I'm just going to use I'm gonna get your heart racing in my skin tight jeans, exactly as before, but halfway through, I'll then quieten down, have the piano just do long notes, and these guys get progressively quieter, ending up on a chord, and then like just a dominant teutonic resolution in the piano, ending on a nice A major chord. And that's probably enough. So you get a bit of solo, you get some harmonies happening, everyone gets to sing a little bit of melody, and you have a key change, and everyone leaves the concert feeling happy and content. So yeah, next I got to fix the layout and make it presentable. So I'm just going to do that real quick, and then we'll finish. Okay, that's pretty much done now. I mean, I didn't really have to do that much with the layout. Again, one of the things I like about doing choral music is that you don't have to worry about doing parts because the practice is to give everyone the full score. So I've just kind of made it all fit nicely on, how many pages? 8 pages. And yeah, I'm assuming here that my choir have good eyes and won't be like, I can't read it. You'll have to decide what's going to be suitable for your choir. But yeah, I mean, layout's just about making sure that everything fits, no text is overlapping, and no symbols are like appearing in strange places where they shouldn't. Like if you use the optimize staff spacing and reset note spacing functions, that takes care of a lot of those common problems. But it's not flawless, and you might find that actually there are certain things you have to fix manually. So I've had a few things. Breaking system, for instance, is a very common thing that Sibelius doesn't get right unless you tell it what to do. So I've done that a few places to make it so that it all looks quite nice. I like having double bar lines. I like to generally break at double bar lines, though here I avoided breaking at double bar lines just because this could all fit nicely on 1.5 systems, and then going into the chorus, which is much longer. It was just compromise for the layout. So yeah, I think this arrangement's pretty much finished. And there you go. That's arranging Teenage Dream by Katy Perry for 3-part choir from start to finish. Leave me a comment if you have any questions, and share this video with your friends if you think they'll find it useful. And I'll see you in the next episode.